The Prime Minister is publicly searching for his son, claiming that my fish-selling fiancé is his long-lost child. In my previous life, I sensed something was wrong and tried to take him away, but he had people beat me half to death. I am now the son of the Prime Minister, destined to marry a noble lady. How could a village woman like you dare to aspire to me? But he doesn't know that he is being used as a sacrificial pawn in a life exchange ritual, living a second life. I personally brought him before the Prime Minister. Does he look like a medicinal ingredient? Oh no, I mean, does he look like your son? Seeing the Prime Minister's missing child notice posted at the city gate again, I felt somewhat dazed for a moment. In my previous life, he had posted notices all over the city like this, spending a fortune to search for his son who went missing in childhood. I was just watching the excitement at the time, but I never expected that within a few days, a massive crowd of people would storm into our poor neighborhood, Dark Cloud Alley. They said that my fish-selling fiancé, Cheng Lang, was actually the long-lost son of the Prime Minister. At that moment, Cheng Lang stood frozen in place, unable to hide the excitement in his eyes. The Prime Minister's servants were in a hurry to take Cheng Lang back to the mansion. Neighbors, whether they were on good terms with us or not, were all trying to flatter and curry favor. Only I felt that something was off. How could Cheng Lang possibly be the son of the Prime Minister? He looks almost exactly like his father, who made a living by fishing. His father only died less than 2 years ago. Has everyone already forgotten? Cheng Lang is just a fish seller. Every day, he would hang the biggest and fattest fish at my doorstep, but when I stepped out, he would hide and not dare to look at me. I thought he was an honest and decent man, so 2 years later, I agreed to his marriage proposal. That's why, fearing he might be in danger, I spent all my savings to have someone deliver a letter to him, arranging to meet at the back gate of the Prime Minister's residence. But I never expected that what awaited me was Cheng Lang's attempt to silence me by killing me. That day, I was beaten to the brink of death by 4 or 5 strong men, with every bone in my body feeling shattered. Just before I died, Cheng Lang finally emerged from the back gate. Dressed in luxurious silk robes, covering his nose and mouth as he looked at me with disgust while I struggled in my final moments. Finally, I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Su Yunyang, I am now the son of the Prime Minister. In the future, I will marry a noble lady from a prestigious family. How could a lowly commoner like you dare to aspire to reach so high? It turns out a person's true nature can be hidden so deeply, so profoundly that I was completely deceived for 2 whole years without ever noticing. Yet it can also be so shallow, so easily exposed with just a little temptation of power and status. Fortunately, I have been reborn. This time, I was the first to see the Chancellor's notice about searching for his son. Without hesitation, I took down the notice and ran back to Black Cloud Alley. Cheng Lang had just returned from selling fish, carrying the strong smell of fish all over him. When he saw me, he quickly stepped back and said apologetically, "Don't come closer, Yunyang, I'm dirty and might get you stained too." He pretended to be so sincere and simple. That's why he deceived me so thoroughly in my previous life. I looked at him coldly, but the corners of my mouth curled into a smile. It is filthy. Cheng Lang was taken aback. Before I could even process what was happening, I raised the notice in my hand and said, "Look. The Prime Minister is searching far and wide for his youngest son, who got lost during the early years of the refugee crisis. It says here he was born on the 3rd day of the 4th lunar month and has a mole on his palm. Isn't that you?" At 1001 hash, Cheng Lang's eyes widened immediately. He didn't even bother pretending to be humble anymore. He snatched the notice and read it from top to bottom, his face filled with excitement. Could it really be me? I always knew I wasn't meant to spend my whole life in this wretched alley, living among these lowly commoners. In his excitement, he actually blurted out his true feelings. Snapping back to reality, he quickly looked at my expression, but I pretended not to have heard and happily chimed in. "Hurry back to take a bath and change your clothes. We'll head to the Prime Minister's residence right away." All right. Cheng Lang sniffed his own scent and hurried home in disgust. I couldn't help but curl my lips into a smile as I watched his retreating figure. He would never know that what the Prime Minister's residence was truly searching for wasn't a lost youngest son, but rather a medicinal ingredient. In my previous life, before going to see Cheng Lang, I had sneaked into the Prime Minister's residence disguised as a servant to look for him, while everyone was busy preparing a banquet to celebrate the young master's return. I accidentally wandered into a very secluded courtyard. The Chancellor and his wife, who should have been happily spending time with Cheng Lang, were instead sitting by a bed where a pale, unconscious young man lay. "My son, hold on a little longer. I have found the key ingredient for the cure. Once he exchanges fates with you, you will recover." Terrified, I hid in the corner and saw a servant come to summon them, saying that Cheng Lang was looking for them. Just listen to the Prime Minister's wife sneer coldly. "A lowly commoner really thinks he's my son. If it weren't for Master Shenqing saying that the life-swapping method requires us to treat him as our own son on the surface to deceive the heavens, I'd find even looking at him disgusting." Clearly, Cheng Lang was that very medicinal catalyst. The grand search the Prime Minister had been making was unmistakably for the medicinal catalyst needed to swap fates with his own son. It's just a pity that in my previous life, I was silenced by Cheng Lang before I could even reveal the truth. In this life, I choose to respect others' destinies. Once Cheng Lang changed into his most presentable clothes, I grabbed him and headed straight to the Prime Minister's residence. Along the way, Cheng Lang hesitated repeatedly and said, "Yun Yang, I know you want to stay by my side, but I've only just found my birth parents. If you come with me now, you might not have a proper status for the time being, and it could harm your reputation. I can't bear to see you suffer like this. Wait for me a little while. Once I've established my footing, I'll speak to my family and marry you with a grand ceremony." He spoke with such sincerity, always thinking of me, but listening to him just made me want to vomit. PH couldn't wait to get rid of me, could he? I pretended to be moved and nodded very understandingly, saying, "Yun Yang understands. Don't worry, I'll only accompany you to the entrance of the Prime Minister's residence." I was thinking, in case they have doubts about your birth date, I can still testify for you. Look, I've even brought the betrothal certificate from when we got engaged. Cheng Lang was overjoyed. When we arrived at the entrance of the Prime Minister's residence, I rushed forward in quick steps and knocked on the door. "Hurry and open the door. I've found your young master." Cheng Lang stood at the foot of the steps, already putting on the airs of a young master. Soon, the Prime Minister came out. I quickly pulled Cheng Lang over and said with a smile, "Your Excellency, does he look like the medicine?" "Ah, no, like your son." The Prime Minister asked a few questions, and Cheng Lang's background matched up one by one. He happily led Cheng Lang into the mansion, while I, with tears in my eyes, watched Cheng Lang as if eagerly waiting for him to turn back and take me with him. Cheng Lang was too guilty to even look at me. Everyone rushed in again in a swarm. As the steward was closing the door, I stood blocking the entrance, smiling and extending my hand. The notice said that finding the Chancellor's son comes with a reward of 100 taels of silver. Where's the money? At 1001 hash. Even if Cheng Lang couldn't recall it immediately, he would definitely come to silence me afterward. But by the time he remembers, I'll have long since left the capital. Ever since I took the silver from the Chancellor's residence, I've been preparing to leave the city, with the whole world before me. Where couldn't I go? For some reason, on the day I was preparing to leave the city with my luggage, the number of soldiers conducting inspections had doubled. Every passerby was being questioned carefully, and someone stopped me to ask for my place of origin. After reading it, his expression changed dramatically. I don't know what he said to the people around him, but soon a group of them hurriedly surrounded me. The old woman at the head of the group grabbed my neck and saw the small mole on it. As if suddenly confirming something, she held on to me, tears and mucus streaming down her face. "Miss, I've finally found you. You are the long-lost daughter of our Minister of Revenue." Me, such familiar rhetoric. Wow, so I'm the one who's supposed to be the catalyst. They were so afraid I would run away that they dragged and pulled me into the minister's residence. Minister Fang Nian, who was over 50, and his wife rushed to the door without even straightening their clothes, and began to cry as they held me. "My daughter, you have suffered so much." I forced a stiff smile. Their tears of joy were not feigned. They must be overjoyed to have found a scapegoat like me. Now, not to mention I can't run away. even if I could, with their influence. I wouldn't be able to escape the capital. I pretended to be panicked. How could I be your daughter? I clearly saw the beautiful Miss Fang when I was selling vegetables on the street. Madame Fang forced a dry laugh. My dear, you don't know this, but you were swapped by a wicked servant when you were young. The one before was fake. You are our real biological daughter. I closed my eyes, opened my mouth, and let out a sky-shaking cry. Father, Mother, I've finally found you. I've been wandering since childhood and thought you had long passed away. I never imagined our family would be reunited one day. Mother, I'm so hungry. They looked at each other for a moment before snapping back to reality. Madame Fang quickly pulled me inside. Someone, come quickly, prepare the meal. In the evening, after they led me into an extravagantly decorated room, they repeatedly instructed, Dear daughter, this is the room we carefully prepared for you. From now on, you will sleep here. With your father and mother here, you can look forward to a life of comfort and happiness. I obediently agreed, but couldn't help sneering inwardly. The chairs in this room are all made of fine sandalwood. I just found them today. How could they have prepared such a fine room in such a short time? I frowned as I looked at the bed, fearing that the person who had been lying there before was the one meant to exchange fates with me, late at night. I found an excuse to dismiss the servants and quietly slipped into Minister Fang's courtyard. Just then, I saw the old couple carrying a lantern, heading toward a dilapidated small courtyard. I followed them quietly and saw that the courtyard was not maintained by any servants, as if no one lived there. Suddenly, a woman's voice erupted in anger. How much longer do I have to stay in this wretched place? I cautiously approached and saw a woman about my age furiously smashing things in the room. She seemed to be in poor health, coughing uncontrollably after just a few movements. Lady Fang was heartbroken and hurried to help her up. My dear daughter, please bear with it for now. We have already found the medicinal catalyst. As long as we raise her as our own daughter and give her the life exchange elixir refined by Master Shenqing for another month, she will soon be able to die in your place. By then, your madness will be cured. Will this method really work? Of course it will. Fang Nian lowered her voice and said, the son of Prime Minister Zhong's family, who was suffering from consumption and on the verge of death, was actually able to open his eyes and speak yesterday after finding the medicinal catalyst. Master Xuanqing's method can't be wrong. Fang Ruqing couldn't help but laugh. That's good. It's a bargain for that lowly village woman. How dare she enjoy my status? Once I exchange fates with her, I will definitely make her die in agony. I watched her with great interest. Don't speak too soon. Whether this life can be exchanged is still up to me to decide. All of you want my life, but I've already lost it once. This time, whoever wants mine, I'll take theirs. After returning, the maid brought me a bowl of soup, saying it was specially ordered by the madam, and she had to watch me finish it. After a little probing, I discovered that, apart from Fang Nian and his wife, everyone else genuinely believed I was a lost young lady from a wealthy family. This was probably also part of the life exchange condition. To shield Fang Ruqing from misfortune, I first had to take on her fate, so the fewer people who knew the truth, the better. I noticed with sharp eyes that the maid had injuries on her wrists and neck, both old and new wounds. Oh, what happened here? I held her hand with concern and asked, why are there so many injuries? Have you been wronged in some way? Don't be afraid. Now that I've reunited with my parents, I am also a master in this household. I can help you. The maid was taken aback, and tears of grievance welled up in her eyes. It seemed no one in this household had ever treated her so kindly before. What is your name? I am the servant girl, Chunna. In which courtyard do you serve? It's the former young lady. That Fang Ruqing has a violent temper and a heart as vicious as a snake or scorpion. Chunna must have often been beaten and scolded while serving by her side. I held her hand even more affectionately. Don't be afraid, I've lived a life of poverty before too. I'll protect you from now on. Chunna, I just returned and know nothing yet. Why don't you tell me about our parents, their preferences, taboos, and the noble families they befriend? I want to know everything. At 1001 hash, using the excuse of nourishing my health, they confined me for several days and made me drink medicine daily under their watch. On the 10th day, They finally decided to take me out. I heard it was the Prime Minister's son's birthday, and the renowned Taoist Master Qingxian also attended. I thought to myself, this must be because they couldn't wait to let the Taoist master see how well this medicinal ingredient of mine has been raised. As soon as Fang Nian and the others arrived, they went to have a secret discussion with Taoist Master Qingxian. Taking advantage of the crowd and chaos, I tried to follow them secretly, but unexpectedly, I accidentally bumped into Cheng Lang. After not seeing him for several days, he was dressed in luxurious brocade robes, wearing a scented sachet and carrying a precious sword, looking every bit the young master of a noble family. Seeing me, his face suddenly turned pale, and without a word, he forcibly dragged me to a secluded spot. Su Yunyang, how did you find your way here? I stared at him without speaking. Cheng Lang finally lost all patience for comforting me and sneered, giving me a hard shove. You shameless wretch, now that you see I've made it, you come to cling to me. Let me tell you, I'm going to marry a noble lady in the future. How could a tofu seller like you ever be worthy? It's only been a few days, and your face is paler than someone who's been dead for 3 days. You're on the verge of losing your life. And you're still acting cocky. I just found it amusing. Everyone says you're the son of the Prime Minister, but aren't you clear yourself whether you really are or not? Cheng Lang's face changed dramatically. He viciously grabbed my neck and gritted his teeth, saying, "Shut up, my father is the Prime Minister. He's not some stinky fisherman." Young lady, Chunna arrived just in time, shouting in panic. Cheng Lang was startled and quickly let go. What did you call her? Chunna quickly stepped in front of me and said, "This is the young lady of our minister's residence. My master is Fang Nian, the Minister of Revenue." Seeing Cheng Lang stunned, I said meaningfully, surprised, "I've become a noble lady now." Seeing Cheng Lang's malicious expression, I knew he wouldn't let it go easily. When I had nothing, he still wanted to destroy me. Now that I have the ability to oppose him and might even expose his identity, he won't rest easy as long as I'm alive. After the meal, Lady Fang took me to meet Taoist Qingxian. The sinister Taoist looked me up and down and nodded with satisfaction. I felt a chill and excused myself, claiming I wasn't feeling well, to rest in the guest room. I had just arrived in the room when I received a secret letter sent by Cheng Lang, saying that he had been momentarily confused earlier and had actually been thinking of marrying me all along, asking me to go out and meet him. Is he about to make his move? I sneered coldly, burned the note, and sent the messenger back with a reply, arranging to meet him behind the rockery. When I passed by the rear courtyard of the Prime Minister's residence earlier, I had seen several guards stationed behind the rockery, likely because an important guest was speaking with someone there. To receive such treatment in the Prime Minister's residence, how could he be an ordinary person? Cheng Lang relies on his identity as the Prime Minister's son. But he doesn't realize that he is utterly worthless. I want to see if the Prime Minister will protect him when he causes trouble. At 1001 hash, sure enough, when I quietly approached, the area near the rockery was already in complete chaos. Several figures in black were entangled in a fight with the guards, and they too had clearly noticed something was wrong. Didn't Cheng Lang tell us to kill a woman? Why is it a man? Let's get out of here. But it was already too late. More and more guards were arriving, and someone shouted, "Someone is attempting to assassinate the Crown Prince. Capture them immediately." The Crown Prince. I widened my eyes and looked at the man dressed in black robes, his features cold and stern. Seeing that the desperados Cheng Lang had hired were ready to fight to the death and intended to take the Crown Prince hostage to escape, I rushed forward without a second thought to shield the man. "Your Highness, be careful." The tip of the blade pierced through my back, intense pain made me lose my balance, and I fell into the Crown Prince's arms. Seeing his shocked expression, my heart raced wildly. "Hold on, my leg." During this time, they've been feeding me life exchange medicine, and along with it, I've developed a bit of Fang Ruqing's madness. Now it seems that being a little crazy isn't so bad after all. Quick, someone, call the imperial physician. Hearing this, I finally let out a sigh of relief and spoke with difficulty. "Your Highness, it's good that you are safe." The Crown Prince frowned deeply as someone reported, "Your Highness, all the assassins have been captured." The Crown Prince snorted coldly, I was actually attacked in the Prime Minister's residence. I want to see who has the audacity to do this." The Prime Minister standing nearby instantly turned pale. Just then, Fang Nian and his wife arrived, seeing me leaning against the Crown Prince. They were so frightened their legs went weak. "Your Highness, perhaps you should entrust my daughter to me instead." When I heard this, I rolled my eyes and fainted on the spot. The Crown Prince immediately picked me up and said in a deep voice, "She got injured to save me. How can I just ignore her? Let's take her to see the imperial physician." Later, I heard that the assassins confessed without much interrogation it was Cheng Lang who hired them to kill. As for whether they had targeted the wrong person, the Crown Prince didn't care. The Crown Prince was assassinated at the Chancellor's residence, and the Chancellor could not escape responsibility. Even though Cheng Lang was the hard-found medicinal catalyst, the Chancellor had to prioritize self-preservation. Thus, he publicly conducted a blood test to prove that Cheng Lang was an imposter and that the assassination was his own doing. Cheng Lang was so frightened on the spot that he wet himself. He knelt and begged the Chancellor to save him, but instead, the Chancellor slit his throat with a single stroke. When I heard all of this, I felt that this trip was truly worth it. Not only did I deal with that scumbag Cheng Lang, but I also managed to escape the minister's residence. I was just thinking about what I could ask the Crown Prince for in return for taking that knife for him, but he suddenly decided to send me back. No matter how much I pretended to be pitiful or weak, it didn't work. "Miss Fang, your mother has fallen ill from missing you, and Minister Fang comes to me every day asking about you. Since you're no longer in any serious condition, you should return to the minister's residence." I clenched my fists tightly, my mind racing. If I go back like this, I'm afraid it won't be long before I completely swap lives with Fang Ruqing, and I'll end up like Cheng Lang, labeled an imposter and left to die in the wilderness. Is there any way to keep them from moving against me for now? At 1001 hash, the next second, I dropped to my knees with a thud and said, "My father embezzled and took bribes, using the ill-gotten silver to help the second prince raise troops. Your Highness, I can help you find evidence to bring him down." The Crown Prince's expression changed drastically. "Is what you say true?" "Every word is true." The Fang family thought I was just a naive woman blinded by immense wealth and nearing my death, so they didn't guard against me. I pretended to be foolish and clueless, uncovering many secrets. The Crown Prince couldn't understand. "How could you be so ruthless to your own parents?" I slightly raised the corner of my mouth. "Your Highness will understand why I did this in the future. I will do my utmost to assist you, only asking that you spare my life." I have returned to the minister's residence, but unlike what they had imagined, I came back in grand style, riding in the Crown Prince's carriage. The people from the Eastern Palace specifically escorted me to the entrance, saying, "His Highness is concerned for the young lady's safety and has ordered this servant to bring the imperial physician daily to check on your injuries." Fang Nian stood frozen in place. Exchanging bewildered glances, he asked with a forced laugh, "How many days will the imperial physician be coming?" "At least half a month." The couple's faces both turned pale. The imperial physicians come every day, so it would be difficult for them to give me the life-swapping poison. After all, my health has been deteriorating day by day after taking the medicine, and the imperial physicians would easily notice something amiss. Fang Nian thought that in just half a month, they could still control me, but they never expected that things would develop far beyond their expectations. The Crown Prince began sending small gifts to the residents from time to time, specifically addressed to me. They are all things like jewelry and dresses, items that easily invite speculation. Lady Fang could no longer sit still. That evening, she came to my room, putting on a motherly demeanor to have a private talk with me. "Yun Yang, tell me, what exactly is your relationship with the Crown Prince?" Upon hearing this, I was taken aback and immediately lowered my head, feigning shyness. "The Crown Prince is only grateful for my act of blocking the blade. It's nothing significant." The more I denied it verbally and the more awkward my attitude became, the more it seemed like I was hiding something. Lady Fang left with a very complicated expression. The next day, while we were having lunch, Chunna came running in excitedly to report, "Miss, His Highness the Crown Prince has sent word to invite you to enjoy the spring scenery this afternoon. The carriage will be here shortly. Understood. I pretended to remain calm and served some dishes to Lady Fang, but she sat there holding her chopsticks, completely stunned. Mother, have you lost your appetite? Of course they have no appetite. They finally found a life-saving medicine for their daughter, but then this supposedly dying fake daughter caught the crown prince's eye. It was a golden opportunity to rise to the top, but if they bet on the fake daughter, who would save their real daughter's life, I don't care how conflicted they are right now. In the afternoon, I still left the mansion with the crown prince. At 1001 hash, the crown prince's carriage headed straight for the city gate. The things you asked for are already prepared for you. I am very curious. What exactly are you planning to do? In the carriage, I was dressed in plain clothes, with my long hair tied up and my sleeves rolled up. Your Highness will find out soon enough. At the city gate, porridge and steamed buns had already been set up. I stood behind the large pot, directing the servants from the Ministry of Personnel to call out to the people. The Fang family at the city gate is giving out porridge. Come quickly, soon. The beggars by the roadside noticed the situation and hurried over to line up. The news spread quickly, and in less than half an incense stick's time, a long queue had formed at the porridge station. I gave each person a full bowl of hot porridge. The woman held her emaciated child, and as the plain rice porridge reached his lips, the nearly unconscious child finally began to suckle. He's saved. My child is saved. The woman knelt down, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, miss, for saving my life. Which bodhisattva are you? I will repay your kindness in my next life. Even if I have to serve as your ox or horse. Before I could speak, Chunna loudly declared, our young lady is the daughter of Minister Fang, the head of the Ministry of Revenue. Upon hearing this, the other refugees also knelt down and cried out in unison, young Lady Fang, you have the heart of a bodhisattva. Looking at these people, I only feel that the Fang family deserves to die even more. The wealth they embezzled from the people should have been the means for these people to survive. But it doesn't matter, soon, all that money will be vomited back out. When I returned to the mansion, I saw the 70-year-old servant wearing only a thin garment in late autumn, so I casually instructed Chunna, take the gold hairpin my mother gave me and exchange it for some silver to buy winter clothes for everyone. I'm afraid this winter will be very cold. The old servant was stunned for a moment, then fell to his knees with a thud. Thank you, miss. Within a day, the news that I had bought winter clothes for all the servants spread throughout the mansion. That night, I stayed up late and faintly heard some commotion. The direction was Fang Ruqing's courtyard. I quietly got up and stealthily approached that courtyard. I saw her, wearing thin clothes, going wild in the dilapidated courtyard. They're all talking about the young lady. But who exactly is the young lady of this household? I've been off the life exchange medicine for so long, and she still hasn't managed to exchange lives with me. It seems her madness has worsened again. That wretch is my medicine. What does she count for? Madame Fang, with tears streaming down her face, tried to soothe her. Ruqing, my daughter, just wait a little longer. Your father and I won't abandon you. That girl is merely your medicine. I slightly lifted the corner of my mouth. As expected, they are her biological parents. Even if I had the chance to become the crown princess, they still chose their own daughter. But this suits me just fine. At 1001 hash, the next morning, Lady Fang sent someone over with a bowl of soup. It was the familiar life-exchanging potion again. Mother has gone to great lengths, but it looks a bit too hot. I'll drink it after flying the kite for a while. Lady Fang's trusted servant, Granny Chen, forced a dry laugh and agreed, anxiously waiting for me to drink the soup so she could report back. The next second, the kite string suddenly snapped, and the kite drifted directly into another dilapidated yard. I wanted to go retrieve it, but Granny Chen's face turned pale, and she grabbed me tightly. No, you can't go. I slapped her right away. Since I am my parents' daughter, where in this house can't I go? Since they all say I'm the daughter of the minister's household, is there any problem with me being a bit arrogant and domineering? Absolutely no problem. Aunt Chen was stunned by my slap, and by the time she regained her senses, I had already reached the entrance of Fang Ruqing's courtyard. She was painting in the courtyard and turned pale when she saw me. Who are you? I stared at her and smiled. My father is the Minister of Revenue. This is my house. I should be the one asking who you are. Her face turned white with anger when she heard my words. You are not. You are not. I turned my head and asked Chunna, who is this young lady? Chunna looked at her somewhat timidly and murmured, it was the former fake young lady. Shut up, you lowly servant. I'll beat you to death. Fang Ruqing, her face twisted with rage, was about to lunge and strike, accidentally knocking over the painting she had been working on. I glanced at it out of the corner of my eye and saw that it was actually a portrait of His Highness the Crown Prince. Then everything made sense. Why are they suddenly so desperate to find someone to swap fates and cure Fang Ruqing's madness? Because the Crown Prince's selection of a consort is imminent, and Fang Ruqing is deeply in love. I pretended to help her pick up the painting, and Fang Ruqing shouted angrily, "Don't touch my painting." She rushed over to snatch it. And I took the opportunity to whisper in her ear, "From now on, you will only be the fake, and I will be the only daughter of the Fang family. I will also marry the Crown Prince and help father rise to great heights." Fang Ruqing's eyes widened, and the next second, she covered her head and screamed, "You lied to me, you lied." Ruqing, Madame Fang arrived belatedly and, seeing Fang Ruqing in such a frenzied state, hurriedly embraced her in fright. "Mother is here, mother is here." I pretended to be wronged and asked, "Mother, didn't you say she was the daughter of that heartless servant from back then? Why is she still in the mansion?" Fang Ruqing suddenly turned to look at Lady Fang, whose face turned awkward as she forced a smile and said, "After all, we've been mother and daughter for so long. There's some affection between us." Fang Ruqing looked at her in disbelief. "Mother." I smiled and went to hold Lady Fang's arm. "By the way, Mother, the Crown Prince has invited me to listen to music this afternoon. Could you help me pick out a dress?" Lady Fang had no choice but to walk out with me. At 1001 before I left, I had someone send a message to Fang Ruqing, saying that the Fang family was planning to abandon her, and if she didn't believe it, she could come out with me today to see for herself. Mrs. Fang kept a close watch on her, so she could only disguise herself as a maid to accompany me from our residence to the main gate. Every servant we encountered bowed their heads and respectfully addressed me as Miss. Even before getting into the carriage, an old servant cheerfully lifted the carriage curtain for me. "Miss, it's been getting cold again lately. We've added thick velvet to the carriage curtains so you can sit more comfortably. Thank you for your trouble." Fang Ruqing's face was ashen. I had her get into the carriage with me, and we got off along the way to stroll around the streets. Because of the continuous days of distributing porridge, almost everyone on the street knows me. "Miss Fang, please try my family's steamed cakes." I stopped in front of the pastry shop, and Chunna stepped forward to ask, "How much for the steamed cakes?" The woman quickly said, "For others, it's 1 coin per piece. But if Miss Fang comes to buy, it's free." Fang Ruqing gritted her teeth and asked, why should she get it for free? She simply couldn't understand it. In the past, whenever she went out and took a fancy to something without wanting to pay, these lowly commoners would curse her behind her back. Why is it that when it comes to me, they're so eager to give things away for free? The woman smiled innocently. Miss Fang is a great benefactor, a reincarnation of the Bodhisattva. She has saved so many refugees. How could I possibly take money from a Bodhisattva? As soon as she said this, the other vendors also chimed in. That's right. Miss Fang doesn't have to pay for anything she buys from my shop either. Miss Fang, these are fruits I picked fresh this morning. Please have a taste. It's our honor that Miss Fang has taken a liking to our goods. Fang Ruqing was so angry that her hands couldn't stop trembling. She reached up and grabbed her hair, as if trying to endure something. Seeing this, I urged her to keep walking, and said in a tone that was both matter-of-fact and boastful, "Did you see, now? Whether inside the mansion or outside, everyone only recognizes me as the Miss Fang." Fang Ruqing glared at me fiercely and said, "You won't be laughing for long, is that so?" I smiled at her and said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you. His Highness the Crown Prince said he wants to marry me." Fang Ruqing widened her eyes. Just then, a man with a large head and big ears approached from the opposite direction. He was adorned with gold and silver, looking utterly vulgar. When he encountered a passing girl, he disgustingly reached out to harass her. I pointed at him and said, that is General Yang's only son. Last night, I heard from Mother that, considering your many years of mother-daughter bond, she wants you to marry into the General's family as an adopted daughter of the Fang family. This would also secure your future." Fang Ruqing looked at the playboy in disbelief. I added fuel to the fire. "If nothing goes wrong, that will be your future husband." "It's impossible, absolutely impossible." Fang Ruqing, somewhat hysterical, grabbed her hair and kept muttering. But just then, young Master Yang caught sight of Fang Ruqing and, seeing her beauty, reached out to harass her as he usually did. "Oh, such a beautiful young lady. Are you married? My backyard is still short of people." These words thoroughly provoked Fang Ruqing. She screamed hysterically, pulled the hairpin from her head, and stabbed it into young Master Yang's neck, cursing like a madwoman. "Disgusting. How dare someone as vile as you even think of it?" At 1001 hash, bright red blood splattered all over the ground. Everything happened so fast that almost no one could react in time. It wasn't until young Master Fang's eyes widened and blood continuously gushed from his mouth that screams began to rise one after another. Chunna was so frightened that she immediately shielded me and stepped back, but unexpectedly, Fang Ruqing had already lost her senses. After killing young Master Yang, she pulled out the hairpin, her eyes wide with rage, and glared at me. "It's all you. It's all your fault. Don't even think about replacing me. I am the crown princess." She charged at me with the hairpin in hand. I pretended to be panicked, with no way to avoid her, and at the critical moment, the crown prince arrived with his men. Pulling me behind him, he frowned and said in a deep voice, "How dare you commit murder in broad daylight on the street? Seize her." Fang Ruqing finally regained a bit of her senses upon seeing the crown prince. In terror, she dropped her hairpin and was still screaming in panic as she was pinned to the ground. "Your Highness, Your Highness, I want to find my father. Woo-woo, I want to find my father." The crown prince waved his hand, and Fang Ruqing was taken away, crying and making a scene. After the crowd dispersed, his gaze toward me was dark and inscrutable. "How did you know that Yang would take this route? Every time I came out in the past few days, I ran into him here." "You deliberately provoked Fang Ruqing. But how did you know she would definitely kill someone in the street? The carriage has been burning incense that makes people irritable. Besides, Fang Ruqing herself has a mental illness and can't handle being provoked." The crown prince paused for a moment. "I didn't expect you to take someone's life." I lowered my head and replied, "Your Highness must have misunderstood something. I was never a kind-hearted person to begin with, and besides, the people I schemed against were not good people either." "Congratulations, Your Highness." Fang Nian and General Fuyuan were the third prince's right and left arms. Now, both of those arms are gone, just as I said, after the news spread that young Master Yang was killed by Fang Ruqing on the street. Witnessed by the crown prince himself, the entire court was in an uproar. Fang Ruqing is the only true young lady of the Fang family, the daughter that Lady Fang gave birth to after a difficult, all-night labor. To protect her, Fang Nian disregarded all alliances and court disputes. He worked through the night to gather evidence and find witnesses to prove that young Master Yang was a notorious bully in the capital, known for his evil deeds. Fang Ruqing was merely defending herself when she was being harassed and accidentally killed him in a moment of carelessness. His betrayal completely enraged General Yang. His son had indeed done countless bad deeds, but he was also the only heir in 6 generations. A precious son that the general had waited until the age of 60 to have. When the news of his death arrived, the general's wife was so overwhelmed with grief that she fainted on the spot, in order to seek justice for his son. General Yang also began pulling strings, accusing Fang Nian of abusing his power for personal gain, embezzlement, and bribery. He was determined to make the Fang family pay the price. The two families were locked in a fierce struggle, seemingly reaching a point of no return, and after the Fang family had exhausted all their connections, they finally remembered me. At 1001 hash, Madame Fang came to me with red eyes, trying to appeal to my emotions. "Yun Yang, our family is being targeted now. If this continues, your father's official position may not even be secure. You have a good relationship with the crown prince, could you ask him to help us behind the scenes?" I silently wiped my tears with a handkerchief. Of course, I've only just returned home, and who would have thought such a disaster would occur? Don't worry, Mother, tomorrow, when the Dali temple holds court, His Highness will testify to prove that Fang Ruqing killed in self-defense. Lady Fang finally breathed a sigh of relief. That's good, that's good. You are truly Mother's good daughter. The case involving the Fang and Yang families further exposed their respective corruption, which was no small matter. The next day, the chief judge appointed by the emperor presided over the court, with officials from the 3 judicial departments seated on either side as assessors. The crown prince appeared in court as agreed and said, I witnessed with my own eyes that the young lady of the Fang family drew her hairpin and injured someone in self-defense. Hearing this, Fang Yan immediately breathed a sigh of relief, but before he could catch his breath, the chief judge continued, although the case of assault in the street has been concluded, there is a new witness in the case of Fang Yan, the Minister of Revenue, for embezzlement and bribery. Fang Yan was shocked. He had always handled matters cleanly over the years. Where did this witness come from? The moment he saw me, the color drained from his face in an instant. It's actually you. I knelt down in the hall and declared loudly, I am Fang Yan's daughter, and I testify that my father embezzled and accepted bribes, misappropriated disaster relief funds, formed cliques for personal gain, and privately raised troops. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire hall erupted in an uproar. The presiding judge had never seen a daughter suing her father before and immediately asked, Do you have any evidence? I pulled out a stack of items from my pocket. This is Fang Yan's ledger, along with letters exchanged with his associates, all bearing his personal seal for verification. From the moment I produced these items, Fang Yan could no longer sit still. Before I could even finish speaking, he rushed forward with a livid face, shouting angrily, You vile woman! You're trying to frame me, he declared with righteous indignation. This woman is spouting nonsense. She is not my daughter at all. I took her in out of pity because she was an orphan, but I never expected her to repay kindness with enmity and try to ruin my Fang family. Upon hearing this, the crown prince looked at me in shock. I, however, turned an expression of extreme sorrow toward Fang Yan and said with a choked voice, Father, I just couldn't bear to see you continue down this wrong path. How can you say I'm not your daughter? So many people can testify to that. Who can testify? But he didn't expect that I actually had witnesses. The first to take the stand were the servants from the household, Chunna, and the servants knelt below the hall and said, The master said the young lady is his long-lost biological daughter, and everyone heard it. The master also told me to serve her carefully and not make any mistakes. He also said that the previous Miss Fang Ruqing, was an imposter. General Yang was furious and rushed forward to kick him. You scoundrel, Fang Yan, for the sake of a fake daughter, you're willing to fight me to the death. Fang Yan found it hard to speak. Later, street vendors arrived. Isn't this Miss Fang? Everyone knows her. Miss Fang has a kind heart, helping the refugees, truly a bodhisattva's compassion. Fang Yan's face turned deathly pale. He never imagined that when he originally found me, the medicinal catalyst, his plan was merely to imprison me at home and deceive me for a few days. Once the fate exchange was complete, he could simply tell the servants that there had been a mistake, that I wasn't his daughter and had died suddenly from a severe illness. He thought I went out every day to play with the crown prince, but little did he know, I was actually winning people over. Now everyone says I am his daughter. My testimony, as his kind-hearted and widely trusted biological daughter, is more powerful than any evidence. At 1001 hash, upon careful investigation, those account books and letters were found to be genuine. Fang Yan was thus convicted, his family property confiscated, but his crimes were so severe that the entire family was imprisoned, awaiting execution on a chosen day, including me, the so-called biological daughter. I was locked in the same cell as the entire Fang family, and Fang Yan wished he could skin me alive. You heartless snake, why did you harm my entire family? Looking at their aggrieved expressions, I couldn't help but laugh. Alright, stop pretending, we all know each other well enough. Aren't you clear yourselves whether I'm your daughter or not? The Fang Yan couple froze, then asked suspiciously, What What do you know? Fang Ruqing's madness has reached the point where no medicine can cure her. You call me your daughter only because you want me to exchange fates with her. From start to finish, you've just been treating me as a medicinal ingredient that can be discarded after use. Am I right, Mrs.? Fang's face turned deathly pale, and she asked, trembling, when did you find out? Oh, I knew from the moment you stopped me at the city gate. It's been quite tiring to play along with your act for so long. Fang Nian sneered, what good does it do you to act this way? Won't you just end up dying with us? I smiled without speaking. Since I've done what I should, the rest is up to the crown prince. This was my deal with him. Now that Fang Nian and General Fu Yuan have fallen from power, he can easily install his own people in those two positions. He promised to save my life, so he should keep his word. Right, I thought I could trust him, but I waited and waited. And there was no movement even on the day of the execution. It wasn't until I was on the brink of death that I finally started to panic a little. No way, did I mess this up? Hurry up, it's time to set off. The jailer pulled us toward the execution ground. Fang Nian's family was so terrified that they wept and pleaded for mercy incessantly. I forced myself to straighten my back and walk out. From the prison to the execution ground, we had to pass through a long street. As soon as we stepped out, we saw the crown prince galloping toward us on horseback. The emperor has decreed, granting a special pardon token. Fang Nian's face lit up with joy, and he cried out loudly, I knew the emperor wouldn't be so heartless. This pardon token, it's not for you. The crown prince walked straight past him, handed the golden token to me, and smiled faintly, saying, I always keep my word. Fang Nian watched as his last hope vanished, his face turning deathly pale, with nothing left to lose. He actually pointed at the crown prince and cursed, fine, so it turns out you were in cahoots to harm me all along. I refuse to accept this. Why should she get to live? If she claims to be my daughter, she should die with me. That golden token must have been obtained through your abuse of power. I will report this. The crown prince looked at him with a cold sneer. This gold medal wasn't something I asked for. Hearing this, I was also stunned. The crown prince teased me just like I had done. Keep walking forward, and you'll find out. I followed the Fang family toward the execution ground, but unexpectedly, all the commoners along the way were kneeling on both sides of the road, holding up white banners that read, upholding justice over family ties. Yun Yang is innocent, someone in the crowd said. Lady Yun acted righteously by turning against her own family to secure 1,000,000 taels of relief silver for the disaster victims. We beg your majesty to pardon Lady Yun. This statement acted like a fuse, and everyone began shouting in unison, we beg your majesty to pardon Lady Yun. Among them were beggars covered in filth, women holding children, and street vendors along the way. The crown prince said beside me, they have been pleading for your justice every day on the streets and at the palace gates. I merely made the emperor see all of this, so this pardon token can be considered as something they begged for. As I watched all of this, my eyes finally welled up with tears. I once thought the world was terribly unfair to me, meeting the wrong people, and even in a second life, I ended up being used as a medicinal ingredient for others. But now it seems, there is so much kindness in this world after all. At 1001 hash. On the day the Fang family was executed, the common people cheered loudly, and amidst these cheers, I quietly rode a carriage to the outskirts of the capital. The capital I had been longing to leave, I finally left. The crown prince, dressed in plain clothes, saw me off. He hesitated for a long time, unable to hold back any longer, and finally spoke, Are you really leaving? I tightened my grip on the silver in my arms. Your Highness, you're not going to go back on your word and ask for the silver back, are you? He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I just wanted to ask what your plans are for the future. I thought for a moment, a slight smile curling at the corner of my lips. Your Highness probably doesn't know, but I make excellent tofu. In the future, I plan to find a small town, open a tofu shop, hire a few quick-handed assistants, and pass down my tofu making skills. Chunna popped out from the side and said, Then I want to learn too. I was so amused that I couldn't stop laughing. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw the crown prince's expression was somewhat complicated. He whispered softly, If you seek stability, why not come to the Eastern Palace? Your Highness, the palace is not short of skilled chefs who can make tofu. I think he understands. What I have always sought is not stability, but freedom. Your Highness, do not forget what you promised me. The Crown Prince looked at me for a long time, then smiled and nodded. I will thoroughly investigate that Daoist Shenqing and put an end to this life-exchanging sorcery. I trust Your Highness. Then, I shall take my leave now. Take care, Your Highness. The Crown Prince gently nudged his horse's flank, making way. The mountains are high and the road is long. We may never meet again. I lowered the carriage curtain, and Chunna raised the horsewhip. Giddy up. The carriage swiftly sped along the road that stretched beyond sight. It was a place full of unknowns, but I believe my future will surely be bright.